with our committee.
And then we can reassess.
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
Yeah, we can continue to assess. So. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Vision Fund public hearings. Yesterday we heard from, actually Thursday, sorry, we heard from 611 applicants, and they were seeking roughly $8 to $9 million. Today, likewise, we're going to hear from 11 applicants. However, the funds that are being sought are more in the neighborhood of 19 million, so give us your best shot today. And then, just so you know who's seated up here, if everybody would please introduce themselves, beginning with Katie.
My name's Katie Kinney, and I'm a Vision Fund committee member.
Megan Reeder Shops, Citizen Fund.
Mark Massa, Vision Fund committee member.
George Graspie, chairman of the Vision Fund.
Heather Forney, Vision Fund.
Tim Johnson, Vision Fund member.
Jolynn Littlewinded.
Don Connor, Vision Fund member.
Lindsay Sechrist, City Staff Support and Liaison to the Vision Fund Citizens Committee.
And then, Lindsay, the couple of city folks are missing, if you would just tell us who they are.
We do have Pauline Sumption, our City Finance Officer, who will be joining us, and Joel Landine, the City Attorney, and they have both been attending our working sessions and advising the committee on specifics with their roles and processing any future awards. So,
Thank you. And then, if I manage this correctly, this green light will go on for your presentation for 10 minutes, but with about 1 minute left, the yellow will come on, so that'll mean you're pretty close to the end of that 10-minute stretch, and then red comes up. And then after that, we'll have about 5 minutes to ask questions, and so we'll do our best to keep things moving along, but we also want to make sure we get the information we need. So with that, I invite Passages Women's Transitional Living, please.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Marge Beam, I'm the Director of Passages Women's Transitional Living, and this is Don Van Etten, he's the Chairman of our Board of Directors. First, I want to cover the demographics and cost savings for Passages. On average, we serve about 25 women a year. We've improved our retention, so in 2018 we've had 20 women in the house, with average length of stay increasing about 30 days, but that does not include the women who are in the house now, currently, so we expect that to increase at least another 30 days of average, which causes the problem of new women coming into the house. The beds are all taken, and we continually have a wait list. Potentially, with the new building, we can serve up to 50 women a year. And over 95% of those women are South Dakota residents. We also have several women a year who come to Passages on a suspended sentence that never have to go to prison. About 40 to 60% at any given time of our women are Native American. Conservatively, Passages' cost for serving the women is less than 1/2 than the $30,000 plus of the annual cost of serving women in the South Dakota prison. But that is a 2014 number. The last number I heard that's not official, it was at a reentry task force meeting with a member from the prison at the meeting, said she thought it was closer to $45,000 now. She was going to get back to me but hasn't had a chance to. So in the past 5 years with those numbers, we've saved taxpayers over $500,000 with women not being in prison. With the new facility, it's estimated that Passages can save taxpayers well over $1 million. The recidivism rate for Passages is around 20%. The average in the state is about 40 to 50%. Nationally, it's 68% returning to prison after 5 years. And the South Dakota rate of 40 to 50% is after 3 years. The other place that Passages saves taxpayers a lot of money is we work very closely with parole and probation officers. So they get updated reports from me on a regular basis. They know if there's a problem, they're the first ones that are going to be contacted. They don't have to spend as much time on their heavy case management load when they know a woman's at Passages. They're confident that things are being taken care of. So I want to talk about the women. I think it's important for everybody else to hear, too, the question that was asked, what are they like when they arrive? They are empty, lost, hopeless, broke, and broken. They have no confidence. Within 6 to 12 weeks of arriving at Passages, they are employed, they're paying their program fees, they're paying taxes, they're paying their parole fees, their fines, and their restitutions. Within 6 to 18 months, they're becoming examples and mentors to the new incoming women. And they're also giving back. They do volunteer work for Passages and other nonprofits in the community. They're getting ready to move out of Passages and get their own place. And not only do we provide a safe living environment, but we go way beyond housing for them. They get life skills classes, Bible study classes. They have to attend recovery meetings at the house as part of the program. They go through a True Thought criminal thinking workbooks. They start that when they're still incarcerated. And we do pre and post tests to make sure that we can tell, are we actually making a change in their criminal thinking? And so far the data shows that yes, we are. They also have a change book. Passages is a lot of work for them. They don't have a lot of free time. And they work with a transition coach. Each woman is assigned a coach that takes them through that change book. They get a new change book every 3 months. That book takes them through learning good daily habits, time management, and setting goals, weekly goals and long-term goals being up to 6 months to a year. They have accountability. They have curfews. We do random drug and alcohol testing, which also saves the state and the county money. A lot of our women don't have to do 24/7 because we do testing and reporting. But the house that we're currently in has significant limitations for these women. It's a leased house. We have no guarantee that we're going to have it from year to year. We've been very fortunate to have a landlord who is felon-friendly and willing to lease us the house, but he's also had offers on that house, people who want to buy it. So for our future security, we need to own our own. There's also, it's a small, older house, as some of you have seen, and there's no privacy for the women. And the new place, there's going to be, there's a floor plan here with 1 bathroom for every 2 beds and a lot more privacy, and we can house twice as many women as we do in the current house. Plus, it'll have handicap access, which we don't currently have. So looking at the fiscal capacity to build the new facility, we've revised our budget that we originally turned in, and it's now $1,171,055. And we've addressed that completely with $500,000 to the Rapid City Vision Fund request. And then in secure capital expenditures in the land and architectural work that's already been done is totaling $249,356. Contributions and pledges of donors, including vendors providing materials and labor, has come in at $243,565. We've also secured a loan from Black Hills Community Bank for up to $200,000, for which mortgage payments will be less than we currently pay between the office and the house that we're leasing now. We are permit ready to build upon the receipt of the Vision Fund money. And then Don has some other things to talk about.
The only thing I would like to add is what has happened in the last 2 days. One of our volunteer women drove to my house and gave me a check for $1,000 at the front door that she said had to be in to the building fund. I have also had another donor who would like to be anonymous, but gave me a check for $20,000 and he intends to repeat that check for another 20 in 2019 and another 20 in 2020. So we may not need as much of that loan from Black Hills Community as they have agreed to give us. So I think we can have proven to you that we can afford to build the house if you give us the $500,000 that we have asked for. And if you do that, I will commit that in December of 2019, we will invite you to an open house in our new house, which is only 3 blocks from here. Thank you.
And another thing that I calculated quickly last night is with our 2020 proposed budget and the additional money that Don just spoke of, the longest it would take us to pay off that loan, if no other money came into the building fund, is 7 years.
Okay, well, thank you. Still have a green light, that's pretty darn good. So, committee members, please ask your questions. Chair recognizes Mark.
Okay, I got it turned on. Thank you for the presentation. So my first question is, how long has Passages been operating?
We opened April of 2013, so this April it'll be 6 years.
Okay. So the next question that I have is, I see in the information that you submitted to the mayor's office that you do have a budget, but it is an annualized budget. And what I'm wondering is, do you have a strategic plan? Because my guess is that you're going to continue to grow and your services are going to continue to be needed. But what is the strategic plan going forward? Because there are going to be ongoing costs and associated as you grow. So is there a strategic plan, say a 2, 5, and a 10-year plan?
We have the 2-year plan, the 2020, but we haven't yet developed the 5-year plan, which we have talked about our next Board of Directors retreat day, working retreat day. We'll be working on that strategic plan. We've done one in the past and come up with that. But our plan is to increase staff by at least 1 member and volunteers by 20. We have 25 active volunteers at this time, but with twice as many women, we're going to need twice as many. So we also plan on paying a volunteer coordinator.
Okay, and does that strategic plan involve fundraising and
Yes.
securing
Yes.
other resources?
Yeah, we've increased our fundraising events from 2 events a year. We went from 1 event to 2 events a year, and now there's 4 planned. So we're doing a minimum of 4 a year. And one of those is a funding campaign that's been very successful every spring.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for your presentation, and the visit to the house was very eye-opening for people that have never been there or seen it. It really is amazing what you're able to do in such a small space. I actually thought I was at the wrong house the first time I drove by, because there was no way you could have that many people in that small of a space. So I applaud you for what you've been doing and your plans for the future. It's pretty amazing. I have a couple of questions for you. And the first one is, in the event there is no vision funding provided, and I want to reiterate that all we do as a Citizens Committee is we make a recommendation to the city. They take into consideration our recommendation along with any city projects, and they come to the final result. But assuming there are no vision fund dollars, what's your backup plan?
To continue our funding campaign for the capital fund. And that's, been very successful. We've gotten every penny in up to this Vision Fund money, so we would continue that effort.
Would it delay actual groundbreaking?
Would it delay actual groundbreaking? Yeah, I'm certain it would. It would for at least a year, if not more. But I think we would still be able to meet our deadline of when the city wants us to start building to keep that land.
Okay. And then my second question is, I believe you told us on our visit that you charge your guests, is it $250 a month?
Correct.
With the new building, does that change their charge, and if so, how much?
Yes, their charge would probably increase about $100 a month is our plan, because they're going to have a larger space, they're going to have more privacy, they're going to have a newer building, so their charge would increase to $350.
Thank you.
Our 2020 budget that we have put in place includes that $350 rather than the $250. And I would also remind you that if you pass it, the city gave us the lot with a unanimous vote, and a city council unanimous vote is rather rare, so.
Chair recognizes Megan.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. In your pamphlet, you referenced that you're in partnership with local justice and social services systems within the Black Hills. On what level is the state of South Dakota involved?
The state of South Dakota is involved as far as working with Department of Corrections on a regular basis, all the parole officers. The prison, we've been to the prison, talked to the warden, all the case management people there are aware of us. We have regular communication with them. The parole officers that we work with are very supportive of Passages and are really glad we're here. It makes their job a lot easier. Many of the parole officers that come to the house and toured it. So we have a very close working relationship with them. Also, Passages is a key member of the Reentry Task Force, which includes state, federal, county agencies.
I have a few questions. You indicate that retention has increased. What does that mean, and what has led to the increased retention?
Our average length of stay used to be about 103 days, including the women who only come and stay a few days and then take off, that just are not ready. And we used to, in the beginning, we were modeled after a highly successful program in Boise, Idaho that's been open for 18 years. And we were giving them a certificate of completion in the beginning every 3 months, especially for some of the women who had called to go back to family and help support them. And we noticed that the recidivism wasn't what we wanted it to be. So we changed the first 30 days when they come in. They don't have a lot of freedom. They transition much slower so that they're not out with their bus passes running into old using friends. So we provide all their transportation the first 30 days. That, once they make it past that 30 days, they're a lot more confident. And then we ask them when they apply if they're ready for a 6-month commitment. Instead of looking at that 3 months, they start seeing their way into freedom after 3 months, and they're not quite ready. Once they remain 6 months, more of them have decided to stay for the additional year. They've gotten past that wanting to leave and get out on their own and realizing they're just not ready. It takes 6 months for us to see permanent changes in them. And then it takes another 12 years for them to start living those permanent changes to be able to do it on their own. So our goal was to increase the average stay by 30 days, and it looks more like we're going to have 60 days in that.
So it means it's leading to increased success, then, the retention is.
And one other comment about that. I don't know if you're aware, but Dr. Diedrich, a Rapid City physician, is now the chairman of the South Dakota Medical Association. And in the Medical Association journal, there's an older physician who writes in the journal, and he had, I think, pancreatic surgery, and he got hooked on one of the pain drugs. And he said that he felt that it really took 18 months to get off from the drugs. And so I think that it's not bad, it's good that we are keeping women longer. A lot of these women have had to give up the rights to their kids, and they're anxious to get out and reestablish that. but if they get out and are not really done with the drug situation, why, they're going to be back in the prison, so.
Okay. Thank you. And then you say you've saved maybe $1 million over the last 5 years? Or you plan to save, you think you have $1 million savings over the next 5 years?
The next 5 years.
And that's because you probably would be having a double occupancy.
True, yes.
And once you're up and running, are you going to, still you'll be getting funding from various sources? Are you going to come back to the city for additional funds, or you think?
No, not for this type of funding, no. We do occasionally apply for the subsidy fund through the city community development office. That's usually under $10,000. But for major funding, once we start construction and build, I don't see any reason the city would need to pay any more since we have our budget for the whole building.
And do you have any flexibility in your numbers? You're asking for $500,000 if the Vision Fund were to approve $400,000. Is that something you could work with?
We can work with it, yes. You know, if we would rather take $400,000 than nothing. We will manage, you know. We are not going to give up on it.
Okay. Chair recognizes Bob.
I would think job stability would be an important part of the passage. And what do you do? Do you work with the Department of Labor, Job Service? Is there some formalized job coach through this process?
The transition coaches do help with, we have somebody, a volunteer that will do mock interviews with them. We have a lot of donated clothes. We help them pick out clothes to go to an interview. We work with Department of Labor. They also come, they have a representative that comes to the reentry task force meetings. And then we also work with the office at Goodwill. They have a list there of every company in Rapid City that will hire with felonies. So we work a lot with them as well.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Don.
You may have said this and I missed it, but what's your backlog of women waiting to get into the program, and what's the average length of time they wait to get there?
That varies from as many as 15 women on the waiting list to right now we have 5 women on the waiting list. We went from 15 to 5 because a lot of them gave up because we can't give them an exact time. When the house is full, we don't know if a woman's going to stay 30 days or stay the full 18 months. So we can't guarantee a bed date. So we tell them it might be a matter of weeks if somebody decides to leave, but right now we don't have anybody expecting to leave until July. So doesn't give the people on the wait list a whole lot of hope. But we've never been since we opened without a wait list.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That concludes our questions, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we invite Performing Arts Center.
I actually might make this side. I know, but I need this. Ready?
Yeah, I think so. Go for it.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Crystal McKee, and I'm the president of the Performing Arts Center of Rapid City. And I'm joined today by Nick Johnson, the center's executive director. I would also like to acknowledge our board members and supporters who are in attendance today. The video you are watching is just a sampling of the great arts events happening every day at the Performing Arts Center of Rapid City. This is what we do. This is what the community's investment has created. We are here to propose a two-phase expansion and improvement project to this growing facility. The Performing Arts Center of Rapid City is a community center that houses 2 rental performance spaces, the 800-seat historic theater and the 175-seat studio theater. These spaces are rented by many local residents and non-resident nonprofit organizations for their programming at an affordable rate. These facilities are also available for rent by for-profit organizations. The center is located within the historic Rapid City High School at 601 Columbus Street. It is a bookend of the 6th Street corridor along with the Civic Center on the north end. The center operates under a memorandum of understanding with both the City of Rapid City and the Rapid City Area School District. The Performing Arts Center is home to 4 coalition member organizations. Each of these organizations are long-standing with a collective 214 years of providing purpose for their performers and entertainment to our community. Rent that is generated from these organizations and other non-coalition organizations for their use of rehearsal space, storage space, performance space, and office space are a good portion of what keeps the Performing Arts Center of Rapid City growing and thriving. This slide shows an example of other community organizations who regularly rent and use this facility. You can see by the projected annual budget for the current fiscal year of over $318,000 that 32% is from rent and event support fees for performances, with 17% generated from ticket sales and box office services, and 5% generated from the concessions during these performances. The projected annual expenses for the current year are over $308,000. The Performing Arts Center of Rapid City is a community investment success story, an example of, if you build it, they will come. Since opening in September of 2012, the center has shown steady growth in both our annual number of performances and events and in our annual attendance. Last year, the total impact on individuals in our community shows that 43,803 individuals were affected by the Performing Arts Center, with a total attendance of over 39,000. Using the Americas for the Arts Economic Prosperity Calculator, that is an effect of nearly $1.4 million of economic impact on our community. Furthermore, over 1,900 non-school related performers graced our stages, with a total of 2,859 youth actively participating in classes, workshops, concerts, camps, and youth-specific plays. Last year, the center hosted 160 total events, with 31 of these being school-related performances. In order to mount these performances, the center is buzzing with plenty of rehearsal. Last year, 156 of these rehearsals took place on the stages in the studio and historic theater. An additional 471 rehearsals took place in the 2 designated rehearsal spaces. The choir room for choruses and the lion's share of the rehearsals took place in the 4th floor rehearsal room. It is important for you to know this information to grasp just how much activity takes place within the facility, and on any given day, there could be as many as 3 productions using the 4th floor space for rehearsals. This does not include the classes, meetings, and receptions that also use that space. Unlike seasonal facilities, the Performing Arts Center rehearsal and performance spaces are used often to capacity 12 months out of the year. With success comes new challenges. Within the first few years of existence, the Performing Arts Center of Rapid City found itself bursting at the seams and needing more room. It is for this reason we are proposing a 2-phase project. Phase 1 would expand support space by 6,540 square feet and make improvements to the facility to better serve the needs of our renters. The expansion would add 2 additional multipurpose spaces for rehearsal, workshops, and performance classes. One of these spaces would be located behind the Studio Theater on the 3rd floor and would also be used as production space during performances in that theater. The second would be located on the 4th floor. Additional production workshop space would be added to the ground floor level and would be accessed from the alley or dock area entrance. Our professional production and technical crew are often building large set pieces in multiple shows at one time. These crews find themselves moving pieces out of the production shop to do their work. Pieces are placed in the backstage of the historic theater or encroaching on the Rapid City High School dock space. Because we are a rental facility, pieces often need to be crammed back into the shop during rental rehearsals and performances, or are obstacles that renters must work around. A small portion of this production space would also serve as storage for set furniture and fixtures for our largest renter, Black Hills Community Theater, which is currently in a temporary storage space outside of the building. Additional pieces of this phase include a 3rd floor ADA accessible restroom for staff and disabled patrons and performers who cannot negotiate the trip to the 2nd floor during regular business hours or during performances when the restroom is too far to get to within Rapid City High School. Other improvements include an exterior stairwell with hand railings that link the 3rd floor entrance to the Columbus Street parking area used by performers and patrons like these, as well as improvements to the Studio Theater backstage access. These slides show the site plan for this phase of the proposed project. You can see the addition in maroon in respect to the Rapid City High School and Performing Arts Center. Please note on this slide that a few of the photos are of Flutter Production, an all-ability theater company from Black Hills Works. These performers are just a few of the users who would greatly benefit from the improvements to the Studio Theater. Phase 2 of this project would add additional parking and improve flow of traffic at the South Street entrance to the Studio Theater, offices, and rehearsal spaces. South Street and this parking lot endure heavy traffic, and often parents are lined up blocking the traffic on the street to pick up and drop off their children, while others circle the parking lot for an open space to park. You can see on this slide where the hillside would be excavated, adding up to 20 new spaces, a retaining wall, and safety railing. Adding these additional spaces would also allow the designation of more disabled parking for our patrons who need it during Studio Theater shows. The other component of Phase 2 is replacing the remaining 230 wooden seats in the historic theater balcony. In the original restoration of the theater, the budget did not allow for all the seats to be replaced. This slide shows the updated padded seats on the left, and on the right are the original seats that were installed in the 1960s. The replacement of the remaining seats would allow for the comfort of all of our ticket holders during events when the theater is to capacity. The proposed project estimated cost is $1,915,000. To recap, Phase 1 has an estimated price tag of $1,650,000. This phase includes the addition of support space on 3 floors and improvements to include an ADA restroom, improvements to the Studio Theater access, and the addition of an exterior stairwell linking the 3rd floor to the ground level parking on Columbus Street. Phase 2 has an estimated price tag of $265,000, $190,000 for the addition of parking on the 3rd floor, and $75,000 to replace the remaining 230 wooden seats in the historic theater's balcony. If funded, we have an expected start date in the spring of 2019, with completion of Phase 1 in 2020 and the completion of Phase 2 in 2021. At this time, I would like to thank the committee for their time and consideration, and we would now answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for your presentation. I've been to your facility. It's pretty fabulous. I have a few questions. First off, the financial information that you provided in the presentation, I don't believe we saw any of that in the packet. Did you send that separately, or?
You did not see the annual budget and our annual expenses. No, that was suggested by committee members who toured the facility.
And will you provide hard copies, please, to Lindsay so we can see not only your budget, but I'd also like to see your actual financial statements, your revenues, expenses, and also your assets, liabilities, your balance sheet?
You bet.
If you could submit those to Lindsay, that'd be great.
Okay.
In your application, you mentioned that you will go out for bids in March of 2019, and then start construction in the spring.
Correct.
It appears from the application that the entire project would be funded, or your request is that it would be funded through Vision Fund dollars.
Yes, we do have $60,000 from our original capital campaign to add to the project, and we would also be asking, as you know, Vision Funds are a good spark plug to getting projects going and started. We would also be applying for funds not funded.
But you haven't done that yet?
No, we have not.
Okay. And so have you thought through, you go out for bid in March. I've been on your side of the table a few times where we go out for bid for a project and then we estimate it's going to be $500,000 and it comes back and it's $1 million project. So have you thought through the process of, if the Vision Fund Citizens Committee makes a recommendation to the city and the city agrees to fund it at the full $1.9 million, your project comes in at 2.5. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that does for the viability of the project, the timing of the project? Where do you go from there?
If funded at 1.9, at the amount requested, we would be able to start the project. If it went over budget, honestly, we are an arts facility. We are used to negotiating and making changes when needed. I believe that we built quite a bit of contingency in, honestly, for under the guidance of the Rapid City Area School District. Their Kumar did advise us quite a bit on our budgeting process, and I feel that our number's really pretty solid, but we would be looking for other funding if needed.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation, Crystal. So my question is, what is the length of time on a return on the investment that you would have, and how does that correlate, or what is the connection with any strategic planning that you might be doing as you continue to grow?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So of the $2 million that you're going to spend, how long will it take you to realize
the city's investment?
Sure.
Okay. The original city's investment, within 2 years, we were overfull and overflowing with things happening within the building. The spaces that we are proposing at this time would be used immediately upon building them. Right now, we're overscheduling, cramming into spaces, even meeting outside of our space oftentimes because we don't have enough room. So that is, to me, the investment would be realized immediately.
So you will have more, you'll be able to have more projects scheduled, right?
We now have people asking us for rehearsal space and spaces, office space, other arts organizations. So yes, we have a bit of a waiting line.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I would say that we also have room for growing the amount of events in our facility as well. And we are doing that as our numbers show every year.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Tim.
Thank you. Could you remind me what your current lease is and what your renewal rights are?
Our lease with the school district, we are 1 year into a 10-year lease with the school district. We do pay a facility fee of $36,100 per year on that lease. $1,000 of that is for supplies. They provide all of the maintenance, upkeep. When we have a performance, and if it's a snow day, our sidewalks and parking lot get cleaned immediately through the school district. They provide a custodial staff for us for cleaning. And in turn, in trade-off for utilities, school events are held in the facility, and our staff works and prepares for those events.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
what kind of renewal rights do you have?
It would be, we will start a year before our lease is up to renew it, but we first started with a 1-year lease for the first 2 years because nobody knew how this facility was going to work. It was a great experiment in using dual use of a space, and it's worked out beautifully. So,
Okay. And do you have the right to renew under the same terms?
yes. There would be negotiation in the price tag as their costs rise. We pay at the equivalent of one custodian, and that's how they figure that out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Megan.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for your presentation. Kind of piggybacking off of what Tim was talking about, do you intend to request any monies for this project from the Rapid City area schools, considering it's their facility?
Thank you for asking. The school district has provided a lot. We could not be the facility that we are without the support of the school district. They have given us the permission to build on what is their property, and they would manage the building project for us, which is huge. They have the staff and the ability to do something that we don't, means that we don't need to go out and hire someone to do the management of the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few questions. Just so I understand correctly, Phase 1 is $1,650,000.
Yes.
And then the other two phases, again, please remind me.
The other phase is the parking expansion and flow traffic phase, and the seats in the historic theater, and that's $265,000.
And then was there a third phase?
Nope, those are the,
And how much is the seating part of the second phase? Do you have an estimate there?
yes, $75,000.
Then in terms of Phase 1, if the Vision Fund were to award that money, the $1,650,000, then you could proceed. You say that you have, what, 24/7 activity? You're bursting at the seams right now?
Not 24/7, but yes, we are bursting at the seams. And there is probably some type of activity in the building. Honestly, what is there, 365 days in the year? 360 days. There is something going on there all the time. Now, our peak times, of course, because it's mostly volunteer performers, we have children's choruses, adult choruses. From the time school ends till 11, 12 o'clock at night, there are people in the building rehearsing and preparing their performances.
And so Phase 1, I think you talked about some of the uses and services. You have classes there, is that correct?
Yes, we do.
And meetings and receptions and rehearsals?
Yes.
Then you rent out the space to others?
Yes. Yes.
You have performances, and then you have administrative help also in that location?
Yes. We are an arts organization, however, so we operate on a very minimal staff.
Okay. But if we were to award that first phase funds, would would it encompass and help all those services and activities that you're currently doing and expand them?
Yes, it would.
Chair recognizes Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, with the vision money, if that were granted, would that help decrease some of the rental fees that you're currently charging? And how does that work?
It would not decrease the rental fees that we charge, actually, with additional space. One organization in particular is prepared to pay additional rental fee for the production space and the storage space. All of our space is rental, and it's at a very affordable price for these nonprofit organizations. So basically, the organizations within the building help pay, as well as we do fundraisers and grant applications as well. But they are a good 50% of paying for what happens in that building.
Okay, and so the school district, when they need to have the choirs and those things, is that a different fee schedule?
No, we do not. They do not pay rent when they do their. That is part of the trade-off for
Sure.
being within the building and having a favorable. If you counted, if you thought of our $36,100 that we pay per year to them, that's pretty darn cheap rent for that amount of space.
It is. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, no more questions. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
We'll proceed now, and the next applicant who we invite is Rapid City Area Schools. I think they were just talking about you, weren't they? Sorry, we don't have any entertainment to fill the... unintended collateral consequence.
Good afternoon. My name is Jackie Waldy. Thank you for taking the time to hear about our idea, our plan, and what we know to be a great community opportunity. and an even greater use of tax dollars. Take a moment to look at the screen behind you, and we have a little preview of our project. So the big question today is why support Pinedale Park? Well, we believe that there are many reasons that we'll go over, but most importantly, we believe in the potential of powerful partnerships. As you saw in that video, Pinedale was built in 1957 with the whole concept of bringing the outdoors inside. Even the first principal, you saw her picture, she thought that this was a unique setting for rest, relaxation, and inspiration. At the moment of its inception, the city and the school district saw Pinedale as a place that was a community asset. So we know that Rapid City is a family-friendly destination, filled with pocket neighborhoods and tight-knit little communities. And even in this room today are good people doing good things for our community. But we need to be reminded that in order to build those strong communities, we need to invest in a viable, safe, and engaging park and playground. With me today is our student council president that is here to tell you a little bit more about the Pinedale legacy.
Hello, my name is Paisley Howard. I'm the student council president of Pinedale Elementary School. It's right before Christmas, and gee, I don't think I've ever asked Santa for such a big gift. I'm so grateful we get recess, but did you know that I'm playing on the same playground equipment that my mom used to play on almost 30 years ago? Ever since I came to Pinedale, I have been promised safer and upgraded playground equipment to play on. My family donates and fundraises for that cause. Now that I'm in 5th grade, I will not get to experience the new playground. It's time to ask for help. I have 3 younger siblings, and it's my wish that they will get to play on a new playground that I have hoped and am currently trying to do something about. Thank you for making my Christmas wish come true.
He spoke to the benefits that it will have for our children, but we believe that Pinedale Park is so much more than just an elementary school. Our plan will showcase that it doesn't matter if you have kids that come to the school or not. This neighborhood is a Rapid City institution. Generations have gone through Pinedale. Families settle there. People retire there for a reason. On any given day, you can come to our facilities and see the grounds being used by various families, community members, and organizations. We have sports teams that use our fields. On Saturdays, a local Down syndrome organization hosts a Strider event. We participate in the 37-year tradition that is the Pinedale Bazaar. We also are part of the Pier Street Garage Sale. You'll see Boy Scouts on our grounds, Fit and Fun, numerous daycares, all using our grounds as a haven for this neighborhood. So, with the appeal that Pinedale already has, modernizing these grounds will have a huge impact. It will draw families to the newer amenities. They want to live in these areas. It'll draw them to the school, it'll draw them to our neighborhood, and it'll draw them to Rapid City. You know, we all want to live in a community that have civic-minded citizens that actively participate in the process, that reinvest in our community. And I think that we could all agree here today that we want to improve educational experiences, as well as the overall quality of life. This park does those very things. And studies also show that as soon as you put a park and a playground in a neighborhood, 3 things happen. The people that live there, they feel a stronger sense of community, the neighborhood becomes more vibrant, and it becomes a coveted destination. So this new coveted destination will be 6 subdivisions that we have the opportunity to reinvent. Now, this mentality drives the real estate market in Rapid City, which leads us to the cost benefits of having a park like this. Studies show that if you live within 500 feet of a park or playground, your property value will increase by 5%, and that is a conservative estimate. So what that tells us is as demand increases, property value increases, therefore, property tax revenue increases. This is good news for Rapid City. More good news is the national trend that is these partnerships between schools, cities, and parks departments. The Home Builders Associations listed that when they did a survey, top-level workers looking to relocate listed their top 5 amenities as a park or a playground. The Park and Recreation Association did a study that 80% of the people they surveyed felt a direct benefit to living near a park or a playground. Now, the average family only spends 7 minutes a day outside. 7 minutes a day. And the #1 reason they cited is not living within a walking distance of a park or a playground. That has huge implications for all of these children, for this community. We live 3 miles to the nearest soccer fields and tennis courts. We live 1.5 miles to the nearest city park, and we have to cross 2 major intersections to get there. As a neighborhood, we have had this vision for over 10 years. Our school district's budget, it's stretched so thin. We hear all the time on the news about restrictions to capital outlay, okay? We never have enough funding. And honestly, I can stand right here today and tell you, there are bigger and larger, more pressing problems in our school district. Just last summer, a school flooded and was overwhelmed with mold. The year before that, another school was literally sinking. The list goes on and on and on. Our school district is functioning in the mode of triage. They're doing the best that they can, but they're put in the unfortunate position of prioritizing and weighing school against school and area of town against area of town. This park has a unique opportunity. This capital infusion that you could give us, it would take a little weight off our school district, which doesn't happen often. It would allow them to focus, and it would benefit thousands of Rapid Cityans. This is a great partnership. So as a community, we've done all we can. Our hopes have been dashed year after year. You heard a student talk about how she's a 5th grader and has heard about this project her entire time in elementary school. And when I say our hopes have been dashed, I mean it. And so what we do is we wait patiently. And as a community, we attend meetings and we join committees and we vote yes for our schools every opportunity that we get. We make sure that we fundraise and that we write grants. We are willing to work for this park, and we've been trying for over 10 years. We have also made numerous attempts to repair, paint, and keep this playground viable. You know, we see the neighborhood changing. We see that the deterioration is starting to happen. And we also know that schools are an integral part of breaking that cycle of poverty. We are desperately trying to breathe life back into our community. And we're doing the best that we can. And it's really time that we need some help. In the end, we all want to know that our neighborhood is worthwhile, worth the investment, and worth saving. We don't even have to imagine what this project would look like. We already know there are great partnerships that exist right here in Rapid City. You can see it in the community centers at South Middle School and at West Middle School. You can see it in Vicki Powers Park. You can see it in the Parkview Tennis Complex. It's a benefit for everyone. So in closing, we ask you to consider the blank canvas that we put before you. Take a look at it right now. Our contribution to this partnership is the 9.3 acres that could be Pinedale Park. So let's team up and let's transform that gravel pile and that dated playground equipment that you just saw into a community park. Partner with us, partner with Rapid City Schools and the Parks Department, and let's do something great for our community. Thank you.
What do we have there? What do they say? Thank you. Very good. What else we got? We love parks. Please pick Pinedale. And what else? We love Rapid City. Thank you, Vision Fund. Excellent work. Thank you so much. Okay, the questions begin. Chair recognizes Megan.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for your passionate presentation. And young lady, thanks for your presentation as well. You did it very well. When a couple of us went to the park, it was after the main group went, we discussed the possibility of having 3 phases versus 2. Is that still a viable option? And can you share that 3-phase option with the whole committee?
Sure, absolutely. So in order to have the most benefits for our community, we feel like the first phase should absolutely be the tennis courts, soccer fields, and playground equipment. We just think that that would have a direct benefit immediately, considering that the summer months are coming. And then, of course, we want to fix the safety issue that is our front drop-off and pickup. And so we'll need to get that taken care of. And then phase 3 would be the parking lot off to the side, which would be used if you've been to the Pinedale Bazaar.
Chair recognizes Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my question is, in your application, you refer to, oops, let me get to the other page. You refer to the Made in the Shade Foundation for some funding sources and Rapid City Area School Capital Fund. Have you tried reaching out to other sources of funding that exist currently in the community in the Rapid City area?
Yeah, absolutely. We received a $5,000 grant from Lowe's, a $3,000 grant from Black Hills Energy. We also have sponsorships from numerous organizations and banks, First Interstate Bank, Thrivent Financial, CMG, Shopko, Walmart, Safeway. All of these people in the community are behind us. And I think that those donations and those grants that we were awarded, as well as all the people that were here today, and it's amazing we got everybody here today because it was drop-off time at 2:40, or pickup time, and then of course all the letters of support you have. I think it really shows that the community really wants this.
Okay, so thank you for that. Is there any way that the committee could get that information from you folks?
Sure, I thought I'd submitted it in a letter that listed all of the grants that we received.
We'll go through and take a look at
Sure,
that.
but if not, I'd be happy to send
Okay.
it to you.
Yeah, we can
And,
send it to you.
I can even send you the totals.
Okay, thank you.
And that's something that we pursued as community members on our own.
Sure, thank
We
you.
also don't want to forget one of the members sitting in the dais with Fountain Springs Church, and they bring volunteers for Love Week and paint, and we are in such a need, and we are asking for help.
Chair recognizes Katie.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation and for the tour. It was a cold night, and you were so gracious with all of our questions. And thank you, too, for what you're doing, not only for the students, but the families in our community. When looking at the Vision Fund amount request, I'm just curious to know, one, I commend you on, you've been very aggressively pursuing grants, passionately pursuing grants, and I appreciate that. I think that just shows us a lot of initiative, and so thank you for that. If full funding is not awarded, what is the contingency plan that you have for that?
I think that, you know, if we were to talk numbers, that's something that we'd have to sit down with Kumar to see what exactly needs to, the appropriate amount would be, because we do have to get bids from the tennis people, the pro track and tennis that will be doing our grounds for that, and then all of the playground companies, we've been researching it for years, and the playground equipment ranges from, you know, 10,000 to like huge, like, you know, 150,000 a piece. So again, that just is going to depend on what the bids come in at. So Kumar, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Oh, I mean, that's it, and playground is where our #1 needs are, and we will focus on creating the playgrounds that benefit kids grade through 5, and so it'll depend on how much money we get and move forward.
In addition to that, I just have a question about, I know that the PTA has been working really hard to, year by year, add some playground equipment. Do you know at the rate that you're going, if not awarded funding, how long it would take to complete it on your own?
Oh, well, we've already raised $19,277.
Okay.
So considering that we need, you know, the estimate that you have there, probably another 10 years.
Or more, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And just of note, the ball walls that you saw in that video, our PTA president's dad built that when she was in 5th grade. So just further, like you can see, the playground equipment's been there for a while. Yeah.
We also have one of our partners here, Jim Skull, and he said the playground equipments were new when he played.
Chair recognizes Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to echo Megan's thoughts and congratulate the young lady from the school for her presentation. She did a fabulous job. She was very poised for such a young lady.
She is our student council president.
Nice job, nice job. I see a future in politics. Can we follow up on the question about phasing? So we talked about 3 phases, and the first phase, your priority would be the tennis courts, the soccer fields, and the playground equipment. Do we have a dollar amount tied to that?
Yes, it's $850,000.
Okay.
You could speak up a little bit, please? I'm having trouble hearing you.
$850,000.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
And having a little bit of experience in resurfacing tennis courts. It's not something that happens quickly or easily. Do you have a time frame on when those kinds of things could start? So if, again, we make a recommendation to the City Council for our priority in funding, they make the eventual recommendation and what they're going to fund. If they say, yes, we're going to give Pinedale X dollars, when can you start?
Well, you know, that's, right now we don't use them because they're unsafe. There's huge cracks, there's rusty pieces, wood everywhere. Since it's not usable by kids, I can see that it would be easily started in the spring.
I'm just thinking on timing for contractors to get in there to do it.
Right.
So have you had any conversations with them about timing, their availability,
Right.
those kinds of things?
I've been working with Pro Track and Tennis because I've also been working with USTA to see if they would offer some funding support, and that's a really long and complicated process. The company that we're working with is out of Nebraska, and they have us like on their schedule. We've got bids from them, and they're going to make sure that they can clear the schedule to come up. We've been talking to them for 5 years now, trying to get.
So you're tentatively on their schedule for this coming spring?
Hopefully
Okay.
this summer if we can raise the funds.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so 850,000 for phase one. Phase two consists of what and how much money?
The drop-off and pickup and parking lots, so that's close to $1.1 million is the estimate.
1.1 million?
1.1 million, yep.
And then, is there a third phase, or?
So that $1.1 million will be split into 2 phases. And that's how we can accomplish phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3.
So please tell me what the,
It's $650,000 for the front pickup and drop-off, and the remainder will go to the west lot.
okay? And then, just to confirm, you talked about the equipment that's been there for 30 years. I mean, once the equipment's installed, it's there for good, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
People aren't going to come pick it up and take it somewhere else.
No, they won't. We do have some wooden pieces from the 50s that can be easily taken out because it's rotting. So.
Okay. All right. Just a second, if we have any questions from legal or finance? No? Okay, we're good to go. Great presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You guys seen the sheet?
Is she, where'd she go? I'm going to shoot her email and get that stuff. Okay, thank you to everyone for your patience. And we invite Rapid City Collective Impact, One Heart.
Mr. Chairman, are you okay with them filing in before we begin? Just
Sure.
for the noise, thank you.
Maybe the city can hit the Vision Fund up for a little more seating in here.
Thank you for your latitude, Mr. Chair. Let me know when you're ready. I'm ready when you are.
Got the green light.
All right, thank you. Wow, this has been a long time coming. I'm very excited today. My name is Charity Doyle. I'm the project manager for One Heart. It turns out that it was really hard to encapsulate a project of this scope and magnitude in 10 minutes. So we are going to break tradition a little bit. You have the original PowerPoint we created in front of you, so you can review that later. But we are instead, and plus, I know you've been through all 234 pages of our application, the business plan, this is no joke, the comprehensive narrative on how this aligns with the comprehensive plan, and of course, just letters upon letters upon letters of support, and I appreciate you taking the time to do that. So again, we're going to do this in a little non-traditional sense, and we have produced an in-house video that happens to be 10 minutes. So Michael, when you're ready.
Roof over my head, but I always couch surf. Then when I got older, I had to stay from motel to motel to motel.
If it were true that homeless people are what we see on the street, then in this past school year we would have seen nearly 600 children on the street. That's not the reality. The reality is we have this many homeless children, but they're living in cars. They're living in doubled and tripled up in motel units with their families.
You'll have many families living in one motel room, children sleeping on floors. Some of the rundown motels they're just deplorable.
The way people perceive the homelessness it's because they haven't been homeless. It's because they haven't seen motel room for 3 months straight. They haven't been from one couch to another. They haven't been told to get up, I'm leaving, you need to go.
It's really hard to live in a tent in South Dakota, but we do have families that live in tents sometimes in the fall of the year until it starts to get too cold. I've seen 5 children and 2 adults sleeping in a very tiny car. Those are really hard and heartbreaking situations.
You have nowhere to be comfortable, and you have nowhere to laugh, cry, sleep, wake up, shower in your own privacy or in your own comfort and love and care, whether it's you by yourself or you have those looking up to you.
The reality is that we're dealing with our next generation a lot. We're dealing with children that are subjected to extreme poverty conditions, and when that happens, law enforcement gets to see the dark side of that on, unfortunately, a daily basis here in Rapid City.
When I think about the children especially, I think about how it affects their growth and development. That's the physical aspect, and the discomfort of hunger. And knowing that feeling and knowing there's nothing you can do about it. It's terrible. So it affects your mental health. It affects your, the way you feel about the world. And a child who's just developing should be a happy, positive little being.
Education is a key factor. So if you have an adult that doesn't have their high school degree, they don't have the earnings needed for housing, and then their child has gaps in their education, so it's just kind of a vicious cycle.
The majority, or if not all of the students who have children have said to me, I'm doing this for my children. I don't want them to live the life I've had to live.
Keeping families together is so huge. The last thing you want to do is disrupt that cohesiveness that a family has. And our families experience enough trauma. They don't need more trauma.
In the state of South Dakota, which applies here obviously as well, 55% of our homeless people are youth, ages 18 through 25. These are young generation. What's happening is they're aging out of foster care and they're homeless. They don't have a place to go. They have no social capital. They have no resources. And so they're becoming that next generation of homeless people. And that's something I think that we can easily prevent.
We've had a lot of success stories from those particular applications from people who are homeless. We don't look at those as applications that oh they're not employable or something like that. And we did at first. We did think that oh this is going to be somebody that'll turn over real quickly. But you know we've learned differently than that.
This is not scientific, but for every homeless person you see, there's another 100 who aren't there yet. They are somewhere up the economic ladder, just enough to be indoors, just enough to have a family member or a friend put them up for a while, or to be able to afford to stay in a old motel or somewhere of that nature.
And that's something that we've been able to see at the restaurants is that you know there's so many people that really are just one really bad hospital bill or one ugly divorce away from being homeless. And you know the working homeless is a very real thing. People that have jobs but don't have homes because of the cost that's there.
So it's important for us to go up that ladder just a little bit, try to put a plan together to divert those almost homeless people or those housed homeless people to get them back into the workforce, back into being self-sufficient, and alleviate the threat of homelessness for them.
It's impossible to do it alone. And that's what One Heart is it's a village. It's a team of caring people who are helping people who are ready to move their lives forward. It's about treating people as individuals with unique circumstances, unique situations, and unique goals and dreams, and helping them get there, holding their hand while they get there, teaching them that level of independence and, you know, just confidence that they may be and most likely are lacking right now. We have a lot of providers in our community that are helping people when they're in crisis. The thing that's lacking is what One Heart intends to fill, which is creating a college-like campus for people to come and learn the skills, the assets that they need in order to function in this society as best they can when they leave the campus. And they'll be living there while they're going through their curriculum and working on whatever feeds into the plans that they've developed. Each individual's plan is going to be unique.
And as they move through the system, they will feel empowered. So that's what needs to be done. They need to feel that empowerment within themselves.
Coming from where I came from, I wish I had that. I truly do. I wish I had somewhere where I could go and I can find peace and I can find what I really want deep down instead of sitting in a park somewhere in the middle of the night thinking about you're always going to live this life.
The exciting thing about this is it's showing people a way to find the way out of the situation that they're in.
They will have a stable place to be and will have the opportunity to build on the skills that they need to at their own pace, and their children will have the ability then to get to school They'll be on the bus route so that hopefully we can get them to the school that they need to get to very easily.
The One Heart campus and the whole collective impact strategy is to dial into the power and the resources that exist throughout the community for a common goal. And so One Heart represents the culmination of all of those efforts for the last few years to get us all together on the same page, working, not worrying so much about our own turf or our own legacy, but worrying about the overall outcome.
I think that if we're able to address this in such a strategic manner that the collective impact process has created, we are going to have transformational change in Rapid City, and it's going to benefit everyone.
We're going to get back what we invest in. If we continue to invest in symptoms, we will continue to get symptoms and the underlying issues that display those symptoms. What we're doing is hard. It's not easy, but it's right because it's about investing in human beings.
And with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes Katie.
Hi, Charity. Thank you for that.
Hi,
And
thank
for
you.
this has been years coming, and I'm so grateful for your leadership. And that video was really amazing. Thank you. Thank you also for the tour.
You're welcome.
That
My
was
pleasure.
wonderful. And for lunch. That was fun. I think I'm hungry now. I think that's my problem. I saw on there and heard where you talk about it taking a village, and I agree with you. I think it does. Can you elaborate a little on just the partnerships that are going into this and the true village that is being built for One Heart? Can you just share with us
Absolutely.
about the partnerships that are involved?
Well, first, how many One Heart partners are in the room today? Now, when we first started this journey, it was
I think
not
that
this.
was just about everybody here. Raise their hand.
It wasn't this. It was maybe met with some resistance. You know, we all have our missions we believe in, and then here comes this concept. So the question becomes, what are we doing wrong, or what are we not doing, or that you feel this is necessary? And so my questions back were always, can you handle everything that's going on? Like, you know, how do you feel with the work that's being done? And almost invariably the answer came back, we want to see people succeed. We work with our little piece of a person, and they walk out the door and hit a barrier that sets them back even further. And so I would say, well, what if you knew this was going on in someone's life, or you knew this piece? And so, yeah, that would make a difference. So we got the group together, and we started looking at how would this look? We want to create a recovery environment, a recovery team. No matter how that's defined, for somebody that might be substance abuse, for someone that might be financial, for some it might be a mental health issue. It also just might be a history issue, some things in their history that are clouding. So we knew what the goal was, and we got all of these brilliant minds together and said, how are we going to do this? And it became very evident very quickly that getting everyone in the same room was powerful. And we did it. We came up, they helped me actually develop the policies and procedures for this It Takes a Village concept. So every individual, every family on that campus will be working with a recovery team, and that team will be comprised of every unique piece that that family or individual wants to work on. So no two plans are going to look the same at all, because we want to put this population back in the driver's seat of life. I can speak to this, but being in those situations, you don't have a lot of choices, and the choices you make sometimes get you into trouble. And it's very prescriptive. It's looking up to an authority figure saying, we know what's wrong with you, you need to do this, bum, 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 bum. And they lose their voice, they lose their choice, they lose their power. So when Bev on the video was talking about empowerment, that's what we're talking about. It's wrapping our arms around them, but not enabling them. It's empowering them, it's teaching, it's giving them the access that you and I have to things that they don't have. So does that answer your question? I got a little excited.
It does.
there.
No, it does. I appreciate the extra
Thank
that you
you,
shared. I do want to say, too, one of the things that I'm so grateful for, and is very evident in your very comprehensive plan, is that you are looking at the people that you're serving for what's best for them, not necessarily what's easiest for providers. And I just want to commend you for that. That's extraordinary. And
Thank
I'm
you.
thrilled. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Chair recognizes Mark.
Charity, I applaud you for your push for this project because the need is immense. I don't think any of us can even comprehend that. The only question that I have is, with this campus that's in this plan, what is the longevity of that before you have to look at larger, bigger, because it will continue to grow, right?
Wow, that's a great question. Probably the only one I didn't anticipate, so thank you for that.
He does that often, don't worry.
He does, yeah, this is great. So if we outgrow it, here's the thing. Right now, I know if we were charged or tasked with building it to meet the current need, we would never get it off the ground. And so when you look at, there are some studies that show the cost of supportive services, supportive housing for people, reducing the draw on services by 74%, which is huge. So if we think about that and we think about that we are actually going to be able to chip away at this issue because we're creating viable pathways out, and it's not just graduate them, get them out the door. As you've learned, we will follow up with them for a year to make sure that anything we couldn't dream up to prepare them for when they graduate campus, we can help them mitigate once they're off of the campus. But right now, you know, we are kind of scoping out some other properties in the area just in case. But I think if the whole goal is to make this manageable, because I can't do this without the providers. And so their capacity is the paramount piece of answering that question. And I can't answer it because I don't know what all of their capacities are. What I do know is we have an amazing relationship amongst our provider network, and I know that we're going to be tracking data like crazy people because it hasn't been done in this community to the level we need it to be done. So we will be gauging that constantly so that we can see when the writing starts to even appear vaguely on the wall, we can start mobilizing that, because again, it's not just one heart strategy, it's this whole collective. So I wish I could give you a firmer answer, but just please trust me that we are tracking data from the very beginning so that we can watch that, we can see what's happening, we can see what's unfolding. We'll know that if we need to course correct early, we'll be able to do that rather than just waiting, and that's why we're doing that phasing plan, so we can do it in a very controlled, intentional manner.
Sure. So thank you for that, and I just want to tell you that this is a great, bold move, and I believe that's what makes communities great. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Chair recognizes Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Charity, and everyone that's been part of this process. I think we all recognize the need for something like One Heart, and the impact that it's going to make on our community, I think, is really, it's exciting. It's exciting. So thank you to everyone who had that vision. Can you, I know as we walked through the facilities and we've talked through this and we have seriously a binder about this thick full of data, can you just give everybody an update on the timeline, where you're at, the status of the project as of today?
Yes, status of the project today, capital, we've raised 69%. We're asking for the last 5 of a $16 million campaign. So we definitely have some skin in the game on this one. As far as operations go, we have identified full funding for the first year. We are 70% funded for the first 5 years. We have development plan coming online, endowment. We have a lot of opportunities that we've been laying the groundwork for bringing new dollars into the community as well. The rub is that we need to be open and showing results, and so we're laying that groundwork now, building those relationships so that as soon as we're open, we can actually start drawing those funds, looking down the road, you know, those few years into it. Back to your question. Could you...
Just the timeline, where we're
at.
The
timeline. Okay, so assuming that, I mean, if we were to be awarded, we would go into the design phase immediately. So I know 2 years from now seems like a long time, and it's not from where I'm sitting. So if we could acquire the property in early 2019, design would begin immediately. And it's, I've been working on the training plan. So when we talk about this One Heart culture, it's going to take a massive amount of training, I mean, on the part of the employees and the providers to make this village cohesive so that no matter who someone is dealing with on that campus, they're getting that same reinforcing message. It's that person-centered, trauma-informed, poverty-informed, recovery-oriented. It's the whole thing. And with that, if I look at that timeline, wanting to open doors at end of 2020, I have to start advertising for those positions April of 2020. And there's various times that the leases expire in the current properties, which will then dictate the construction. We don't have a lot of construction to do, but we do have some renovation to do. So this full 2 years, if we were awarded and could acquire the property in early 2019, is jam-packed to get the doors open by the end of 2020.
Thank you. And then I have just one other question. I think we all have our own idea of what we consider success in whatever it is that we're doing. What would you consider a success for One Heart?
Success for One Heart is beyond, I think, the obvious, the people who graduate, the people who go through that. One second. Success for One Heart is going to be when, no matter who you are, Native or white, affluent or poor, you feel like you are part of this community. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple questions here. Just remind me again, please, some of the specifics. The entire project is how much money, more or less?
Capital?
Yes.
16.
16 million?
Yes, sir.
And if you receive 5 million, you have funding sources for the balance?
Yes, we do.
And when you say acquire property, what property are you talking about acquiring?
The property laid out in the business plan, the old NAU property minus the property that Pennington County has recently acquired for the CARE campus. It's the balance of that property.
And then if you can just kind of remind me of the village campus idea. There was one building that we went into where they were working on bones and things. And you were going to what were you going to put in there?
Well, in the bone building, that's where the majority of the provider offices would be. So there's a couple of anchors in that building. So Community Health Center of the Black Hills would be anchored there. As you've learned, they will have an urgent care base there. There's not one currently in the center of the community. So they're going in not just to serve the guests at One Heart, but the whole community. Dress for Success would be another anchor. And then the majority of the other partners will have satellite offices there. Our historical trauma, our basic counseling, Rapid City School District will have an office there. It's a massive partnership. So that's the main provider building. All of the intake and the care coordination and that deep dive assessment to help people develop those plans will happen right in that building.
Okay, and then the next building that had the ghosts of all the poor dogs that were in there?
Yep, the ghost graveyard, the old animal health building. The YMCA will be in that building to help to provide the child care piece. There'll be some One Heart offices in that building as well, and then the rest of the space. We have a board of dream list on what we're going to end up doing with that space, but we have a lot of ideas for it.
And then the third property there, that's existing right now. Are you going to add rooms to that, or is it pretty much good to go?
Actually, we're going to demolish some rooms. It is pretty much good to go, but 2 of the 3 towers lack elevators, so we will need to cannibalize some rooms to drop elevator shafts into the space. But those are the living quarters. And one thing I'll point out is when we were first looking, when I was first brought on and charged with finding something, we were looking at some warehouse space, and the cost of plumbing made it impossible for us to have individual bathrooms for families. And when I think about a family in crisis, and I mean, you heard some of it on the video, just not having your own space to heal and do what you need to do, that was really hard for me, but it was cost prohibitive. So when we found this property, that western tower, the 4-story, the bigger one, all has their suites, so they each have individual bathrooms, so that's what we've earmarked for families.
And then, with respect to the 5 million, if the Vision Fund were to approve, let's say, somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.5 million, is this still green light on the project?
Well, we would be delighted with anything and on any timeline the city proposes. What I will say is, because this has been in the works and we do have a purchase agreement on the property, originally the property owner needed it to be closed on January of this year, and so he has bent over backwards to work with us. So my fear is that with any more of a delay, we run the risk of actually losing that property. Why that's significant, not that we couldn't make this work somewhere else, but why it's significant is because the conversations with all of these providers would not and could not move forward until they knew the location, because that logistic in and of itself helped develop the plans that they were making so they could answer yes or no. So I really feel like we'd go back to just a hair beyond square one in that regard.
You're talking January 1 of 2019?
No, when he originally wanted the property to close, it was January of this year. It was beginning of this year. So he's stretched it out for us, and so now we have that purchase agreement, and I don't know if we'd have that leniency.
Are you familiar with the proposed timeline that we're looking at? We're looking at proposing our recommendations to the council somewhere towards the end of January. Is that livable for you?
Absolutely.
And workable?
Yes.
Okay. Any more questions? Well, thank you very much for this.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, that whole application package will be on our website for anybody to enjoy. If you're having trouble sleeping, there's a lot of information in there, but it'll really give you an amazing view into what's really happening in your community that you may not know about. So thank you today.
And it's wonderful. It's got 12
Thank you so
breakdown
much.
areas, and it's really thorough, comprehensive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Very well then. We will now move on and invite Rapid City BMX. Thank you for coming. Few bucks out there, huh?
How do we run the video? Okay. Okay, and I can just, does this just, which,
Ready, sir?
I am.
All ready. Ride us away.
Ride you away. Here we go. Well, hopefully that gets you excited if you want to come out and jump on a bicycle with us. I want to thank you for the opportunity of coming out here and presenting to you today, and I want to thank you for the time that you've put in at this committee. My name is Chris Blair. I'm the Executive Track Director here at Rapid City BMX, and I've just got one question for you. How far can two wheels take you? Well, in today's world of BMX, we believe that it can take you all the way to the Olympic Games, to where you can earn a gold or a silver medal. That's the ideal that we have at Rapid City BMX. Oops. I'm doing something wrong here.
I wish.
As soon as you get, it has long been our goal at Rapid City BMX to get kids out on bikes and enjoying a healthy lifestyle that they can share with their families. We have worked very diligently in the past years to promote community awareness of the benefits of a biking lifestyle. We are a 501c3 organization managed by our volunteers who have completed over 2,200 hours of volunteer service in the past year alone. Currently, our season runs from April to October, weather permitting, and we operate 4 nights a week, which includes 2 nights of high-energy, announced USA-sanctioned BMX racing, which allows our racers to compete for not only state and national rankings and titles. The other 2 nights a week are open to the public for them to enjoy the facility under our supervised staff and our coaches. This upcoming year at Rapid City BMX, we will be celebrating our 24th year. And in that time, we have had thousands of kids use our racing facility. We are very proud of the achievements and the hard work that have been accomplished at our facility. We are very proud of the achievements that Rapid City has done both on and off the track. Currently, our motto is keeping kids on the right track. Over the past year, we have partnered with the City of Rapid City, RCS, Tom Ritz Design, and Sperlich Engineering to construct a new facility in Robbinsdale Park, sharing roughly 43% of the cost of construction, along with hundreds of manpower hours. We have had a hands-on approach to this process since we've broke ground. We began construction in November of 2017. Here we are behind the Fairmont Street Fire Department in the entrance to the Robbinsdale Park. Construction was in basically 2 phases, and the initial dirt work began done in the fall of 2017. We took it upon ourselves to institute many new advancements in the track and provide for greater safety, along with more progressive layout. One of the jewels of our construction was the start hill that features an advanced gate system that we currently use. It's equal to anything that is currently being used today in the Olympics and or any world competitions. We then came back in the spring of 2018. We started to work again and to finish the track, which included putting up gravel surfaces. We also did landscaping and hydroseeding and construction of a new registration building. We also worked on asphalting our corners and building both a start and a finish line booth. Here's the result of what we had for our opening day last year at 2018. The new facility still needs a number of construction items and additions to complete in the scope of our project. If awarded the Vision funds, we will be complete in a majority of our needs, be able to cross our finish line, and be able to compete for hosting larger state, regional, and national events. The 4 areas that we are most focused on is our speakers and electrical equipment, our spectator viewing, some playground equipment, and our lighting. The first thing that we have is our speakers, and we have been operating on donated equipment for 20-plus years now. The system is old, weathered, and no longer satisfactory, often cutting in and out and very unusable. We need to have equipment that provides adequate sound and safety, not only for our riders, but also for our spectators, and at being able to also work with our track officials and our marshals on the grounds. The track footage that we have compared to our old facility is nearly 3 times as large, and the equipment that we're using was gauged basically for that old facility. We are also unable to use the newer technologies that are out there in the sound equipment. The other thing that we are looking at is our bleachers. I'll actually go back. Currently, we have a couple small sets of bleachers on loan to us from the Parks Department. We are looking to expand our spectator area and also meet ADA and safety guidelines. One of the biggest obstacles that we have currently for being able to host larger events is our spectator viewing area at the facility. We currently have seating that can approximately hold about 175 people with our current bleachers and tables. What we have done in the past is now started renting bleacher systems like this. On our opening night last year at the track, we saw over 400 people attend our first night races. We have concluded a number of separate bids into the packet for your review. The other thing that we are looking at is playground equipment. We would like to add an additional service at the track and maximize the facility while keeping families active. We are partnered with the Parks Department to acquire a safe set of playground equipment through one of their recommended vendors. It would also allow more people to utilize the track and be able to stay a longer duration. And lastly is our lighting. Here we are at the last parade of lights. We are currently using old repurposed lights on loan from the city that meet our short-term needs, but the city has required us that within the next 12 to 24 months that those lights be replaced. As stated, our current facility is nearly 3 times as large, and the lighting does not reach the area of the facility very adequately. We are working with Musco Lighting and a couple of local vendors, companies, that will help us on some formal bids that were also included in the packet. So what are the benefits of granting this application and the impact on the community, and how does this project align in the long-term goals identified in the Rapid City Comprehensive Plan and its core values and principles? Our primary mission is getting kids and families outside on bikes and being involved in their community. BMX promotes a healthy lifestyle, teamwork, and we also maintain the quality of the recreation abilities in the Rapid City and the park system. We are currently aligned with the 6 city goals: a vibrant, livable community. We built an Olympic gauge track for our youth. That is something that very few communities in this whole country can say right now. A healthy, safe, and skilled community. We want kids and families outside exercising and building life skills. Efficient transportation and infrastructure system. What's a better mode of transportation than 2 wheels on a bicycle? Economic stability and growth. We host events that brings in hundreds of riders and their families that stay and play in the community. We have an outstanding recreation and cultural opportunities. Rapid City BMX racing is one of the fastest growing sports in the area, along with also in the country. Responsive, accessible, and effective governance. We are managed by a board of directors that has worked very hard to become, one, profitable while also growing, and to also reinvesting in our community and in our facilities. So, where is the impact in our community? We promote a healthy activity that is available to all ages. We have riders all the way from 2 years old up to 63 years old. We have also worked with other youth groups that include dance and music organizations, Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, and Youth and Family Services. We are working towards a STEM program in the school system. We host open house nights. We also have free riding at the track, along with outreach programs to also schools and churches. All of this has been done by our family volunteers. We host race events that bring in participants and families that stay, shop, dine, and visit our area attractions. Last season alone, we saw riders from over 22 different states and 2 different countries. We only have a positive growth and anticipate seeing a national event here soon. We requested funds will continue our growth and create an even better overall facility and creating a fantastic experience for people to take home with them. We appreciate your consideration of our proposal, and we please do not hesitate to ask any questions about our program, and I sure hope we see you out at the track. With that, I'll open it up to any of the members.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? Chair recognizes Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually pushed my talk button before I requested permission to speak. My apologies. Thanks, Chris, for your presentation and the tour that y'all gave us a couple weeks ago, or a week ago. When we were at the track getting the tour, we talked a little bit about economic development and the potential for adding new races, bringing more people to the community, because you kind of struggle to host those kinds of events now because of the lack of seating and those kinds of things. Can you expand maybe for the rest of the group that hasn't heard about the potential for the new races and how that brings additional people to Rapid City that maybe wouldn't be here otherwise?
Okay. We operate, like I said, between April and October, so there's a pretty good time window for us to be able to host other events. So we race twice a week during the week time, but there's these other events that are out there. There's national and regional events that we would be able to put in an RFP to our national organization to be able to host these events. Currently, some of the events that we are hosting, we have a state qualifier that we do along with a Gold Cup race. We'll see at least 500 to 600 riders over a weekend. These other national types of events can see upwards to 5,000 people come in for these type of race events. So we're talking about 10 times the economic impact. And the better the facility, basically the more anticipated use of that facility by our national organization.
As a follow-up, I think you mentioned something about the state BMX race and how it's held somewhere else currently, and that you may be able to bid for that if you had the appropriate facilities. Can you talk about that too?
Absolutely. That would basically just add a whole nother avenue of revenue to the city, along with us, to be able to host a state championship race. Basically, we're in compete with other tracks throughout South Dakota to be able to host the state championship race. It's put on a point system about how many riders you get out to the track and things like that. So moving the facility forward will give us a greater advantage of being able to have more riders, host more events and those kinds of things, acquire more points to ultimately be awarded that state award of a championship race. And there again, a whole nother weekend, and we could see up to, at that event, up to 1,000 riders coming into the area and staying in the area and enjoying the Black Hills.
Chair recognizes Bob.
Basically, we were allowed to use the existing lights that were from the old BMX track and the smaller midget baseball field. It does not meet the existing regulations on lighting within the city of Rapid City. There are wood poles there, and like I said, our facility has expanded so much that they're just not quite up to par with what we truly need, and the city has made a point that we need to update that system that we have. They did basically allow us to bring the poles that we had from the old facility to keep us running and keep us racing for this last season.
Thanks, Chris.
You bet.
Thank you. I have a few questions. So your request is for a total of $244,000?
Yes.
And that's broken down into kind of various things. One is what's your priority here to bring in a national event? Do you need speakers? Do you need or you need more seating? What do you need?
We have them kind of ranked in that order. Is number one is our speakers, then our bleacher system, playground, and then our lighting equipment. So yes, our first two things to really being able to advance our facility to be able to host these types of events would be the speakers and electrical equipment that we need throughout the facility, and then basically the stadium bleacher seats that we would like to put in.
Okay, and so we're talking the sound system is about $5,000. The bleachers equipment is about $64,000 to $73,000. Playground equipment, which will be installed and permanent, is about $30,000.
Yes, sir.
And then, pretty much on your own, you've had various projects that you've completed. One is the track, correct?
Yes.
And then you've the concession building. That's another project you completed.
Yes, we partnered with RCS in constructing that building.
And then landscaping and signage.
Yeah, that has basically been all on us. Like you all saw the other day at the visit, we're back under construction again. We've got a number of programs and things that we want to accomplish to keep us moving forward. One of which is, you all saw all the rain that we got this last summer. Basically, that came in and really did significant damage to our track. So we've had to come in and basically, on two different occasions, basically rehab the track and reconstruct a lot of areas of that. So we're back again doing that. We're also working on our irrigation system right now. And these are all projects that we've taken on as an association to do those kinds of things.
And so would you say that your track is pretty much state-of-the-art, as good as you can get in the country?
Absolutely. The gentleman, Tom Ritz, that came in and helped us design and build the track has built the last 3 Olympic venues. He is probably one of the top 1 or 2 people in this entire world that can build a Supercross BMX facility like we've got.
And is it true that you even get some interest from pilots flying over?
Yeah, I honest to God got a phone call one day from an airline pilot that said, hey, I'd like to meet with you. I took a picture of your track. I raced BMX in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I said, well, absolutely, I want to come and see these pictures. In fact, one of the pictures that we saw during the video was included in that. So we're a great community. We travel this entire country to get on 2 bikes and race each other, and it's just a wonderful thing.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation.
All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks. Okay, well, you got to talk to your chairman. He's kind of running behind here, so. Our last presentation for the early evening or early afternoon is Rapid City Boys Club, and we invite you up to make your presentation, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Doug Herman, the Executive Director for the Club for Boys, and we really appreciate the commission members the opportunity to present and talk about the Club for Boys and the projects that we have requested and what we're pursuing at this point. Just a little bit about the Club for Boys. First of all, you know, in fiscal year 18, there's 1,237 club members. And that number will continue to grow throughout the year. We kind of start every year in June, and we have membership. The membership costs $12. And then we also have scholarships that if a family cannot afford the $12, we have the ability to do that. A little bit more about our boys. 79% are in households that meet the U.S. Department of Ag poverty guidelines for free and reduced meals. And just a point on that, we serve between 80 and 85,000 meals every year. And so that's certainly a big part of what we do at the club. 55% of the boys designate themselves as members of a minority group, usually Native American. 7% of the boys were homeless sometime during the year. 16% had a parent or close family member incarcerated. 35% were being raised by a single parent, and 2% were in foster care. And as you can do, a lot of our boys are certainly have some struggles, but we're certainly an opportunity, and of course 100% are cared for and valued at the Club for Boys. The community impact, obviously we promote educational achievement for at-risk students, and that's a big emphasis on our part. We have the benefit of having a library and an X-Lab where we can do a lot of type of educational tutoring afterwards. We have several volunteers who come in after school and are able to provide tutoring. We have community health and public safety by providing a safe, clean environment for boys during their idle time. And when they're at the club, they're not idle. I can assure you of that. If you've ever been in the club, when we have 300 boys in the area, it's full of energy, and they're very, very, very busy. We also promote the community's economy and financial well-being by assisting boys with skill building, job training, social interaction, and reinforcing the concept of being involved with one's community. And so we certainly bring what I have found very interesting at the club is that we have boys from all over Rapid City. I think some think we have boys from just North Rapid, but that's not true. We bus from all over. And so we have buses that are from the Robbinsdale, from the Valley, from East Middle School. And so it's really quite a diverse and kind of a melting pot of the Rapid City area. And when you get into the summertime, we have boys that are coming from Box Elder, Stage Barn to the north, and it just even broadens some more from Hermosa area. So we're very involved across the community. But specific to our capital improvement projects, we have a gymnasium roof. It's our large gym. That was built in I believe 1976, but it's been 1993 since the gym has not been replaced. We also have a front office and lobby remodel for security and functionality purposes, and that's also to kind of help provide more safety, but then also to be able to serve the community and both our parents and public people that come into the club. And then our last one is the Erickson Building remodel, and then it's also include a covered outdoor sport court and some bus parking. And as I had mentioned before, we have 6 buses, so we go out and we go to about 10 different schools and bring them back every day. And so we've invested quite heavily in buses, and so we also think covered parking would be very, very appropriate. Our project phases. The phase 1 would be the new gymnasium roof. Our initial cost estimate was $110,000. We do have a more updated estimate that brought that down slightly, and we would complete that this summer. And we do have a contractor who is willing to put that on the schedule. And then we also have the funding up front through a line of credit with our current Security First Bank. The second part to that is the phase 2 front lobby remodel, and that cost is $248,000. And we look to do that. Actually, we've updated that a little bit to more of a January or winter of 2020, in which we can do that. And part of that is we really had to think that through a little bit more because we're so busy during the summer and the fall. It would have been really disruptive to try to do something that summer or fall. So it's really just trying to accommodate working around our busy time of the year. And so I think that would make sense. We do have an updated bid on that one, which is slightly less than what our original preliminary estimate was. And then we also there have the funding up front. We have a commitment from our foundation board of $200,000 to loan us interest-free. And plus we have the $77,000 in the bank in our savings account to assist us with that. And then, of course, we would have our line of credit, in theory, if we've paid off phase 1, we would have that available to us again. And then the last would be phase 3, Erickson Building renovation and sport court. And that we would complete in summer and fall of 2021. And through that, we have a fundraising capital campaign that's will kick off in January. We'll do a silent phase and then move into a public phase. And we think we've had some initial contact, and we're very confident that we can raise the additional funds. So with this, we are seeking $900,000 of the project's cost from the Rapid City Vision Fund. This is some pictures of that phase 1, the new gym roof. I do, if you see the pictures in the upper right, that's where the water damage is occurring. When I was able to tour some of the group, we had just replaced those tiles, but they were damaged again because the snow actually melted after your tour, and so we got those pictures. And then that gymnasium is used for a variety of community groups. We probably use it 250 days a year, and then, excuse me, my mouth is getting quite dry. There are over 25 groups, and they are probably use it at least another 100 days a year, and so it's we make it available in the evenings and on the weekends. This is our lobby and office remodel with the layout there. And it's really to kind of open it up and have a kind of panoramic view for our staff and to be able to better see who's coming and going and tracking those coming in and out. And then we've been working with the police department on ALICE compliance. and that's to help with responding to an emergency or someone that's maybe a threat to to entering the building. And so those are all things we're trying to factor in, plus just be more customer service oriented. Some more visuals of as you come into the lobby area. You can see the parents' view as they come in, and they're looking towards the games room. Then from the inside, the front office, looking out. Oh, thank you, Richie. You're saving me here. Much better. Thank you. And then, so with the inside front office, that's where we want our staff to be able to see a panoramic view of who's coming and going. And if you've ever been at the club at 3 o'clock, and when parents are picking them up, it is quite a sight. And we've got our staff who are paging kids, your rides here, and then it's coming and going and stuff like that. And so we really need a much better way of facilitating the traffic, as well as helping with the kids getting to where they need to, and then helping the parents as they come in. So all of that was designed into this layout. The Erickson Building, and this it's phase 3, but there's a step 1 and step 2. And step 1 is actually with a sport court. We have an outdoor lot. Those who toured that day, you saw it as our Christmas tree lot. Of course, it does change throughout the year of how we use it. But in that, we see that as a great space if just to put a concrete floor and then a sport court that allows us to do all different types of activities, and then also cover it without actually it being a building or anything, because we could really have a tremendous amount of activities 7-8 months out of the year, and it would still serve our purpose during the winter to be a tree lot. And then we also, that's where I talked about earlier, where we would have covered parking for our buses, as we've invested quite a bit into that. So it allows us to really expand our programming. And then with the Erickson Building, which we have, the Erickson Building is really our old thrift store, and we vacated that about 5 years ago, and we have a new thrift store out on Campbell Street, and that is in place, and it's really working well for us, and we're so glad we made that step and that investment. But now we're kind of refocusing what can we do with this building. This building would really serve well two populations, our outdoor education program as well as our older boys. And I just to kind of emphasize the importance of this, my history is I spent 30 years working in juvenile justice and juvenile corrections, working with young adults that had already made mistakes, and it's much harder to mend young people. What we could do here is if we could retain more of our members, and what I mean by that is, we have approximately 700 elementary kids, 300 middle school kids, and about a little less than 100 high school kids. And I think we really need to focus on that middle school, high school group to retain them in the club and their involvement, because I think we can impact them successfully. But we also need a facility to really keep the interest. And so remodeling the Erickson Building would take a huge step from that. And right now the building's essentially kind of a warehouse looking, and we certainly use it for a lot of different things, but it's time for that update. And then this is some phase 3 visuals of the Erickson Building as we would remodel it. And on the left, if you're looking, which is on the south side, that would be the area for the older boys. And then we'd have a kitchen that's specifically for teaching how to prepare meals and food, and then also laundry services that we could teach boys to do that as well. And then also in the middle would be more of an open area for our other kids that could come and go, and we can utilize it for different types of events. because there's a retractable wall there. And then also our outdoor education, and I think sometimes people don't realize how involved we are with outdoor education, and that we have a cabin up in the hills that we go up there on a regular basis, but we're often in the building or on site also introducing them to a lot of different types of outdoor activity, whether that's archery, or other types of sports or whatever, that we make a significant effort on that. And then this just shows some of those visuals. And then we also have an outdoor education classroom in there as well. And then, as I mentioned, that would be the older boys area. There'd be an office, and then the instructional kitchen area, as mentioned earlier. More visuals that show the different areas. And then we would have a storage area there as well. And we currently have one in there, but this would be, we would utilize the space much more efficiently under the remodel. As I mentioned before, for phase one, we'll do that this summer. We have a line of credit. We can move forward with that. We're ready to do it, make it happen. Phase two, we would follow that up starting in January of 2020. And we can also have the funding up front for that through the loan from our foundation board, as well as some cash in the savings account. And then the last would be the one where we would have some time to do a significant capital campaign, and that we could raise that money for the part that we would cover. And then this is the funding schedule as I just laid out, essentially, in each step, and how we've moved through that time frame. And that kind of concludes our request and our explanation of our project. I just would want to stress, I've been the executive director for a little less than 3 years, and one of the things that amazed me is I don't go a week without being in this community, and when I'm wearing my Club for Boys ID or a hat, I am approached by an older gentleman, and he has to tell me his experience at the Club for Boys. And that's, it's always, they don't know me. I'm the stranger. I wasn't working when they were, but they tell me that. And they always followed up, not only was, here's my experience, then they start asking me who still works there. And I can say yes to a lot of them. We have Mark Klein that's been there for over 30 years. Carrie's been over there 25 years. I can go down a list. And they always, there's always someone that's still working for us. And then we've got a great blend of new and young staff who are bringing great ideas, and I'm very excited about being part of the Club for Boys, and we're hopeful that this project will really enhance what we're doing. So I really appreciate the opportunity to present, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Mark.
Thank you for your presentation. That was well done. So in your information in your application, you say that from 15, an average of 240 boys came in each day, and in 18 you were at 273, which is a 14% increase. So do these renovations help you sustain some more growth? Because apparently there's need out there for that. So
yeah, significantly. And I should have, yes, we've seen a significant increase in our overall numbers, particularly during the summer, but even during the school year. And this really responds to that. Both, we've already moved our older boys into the Erickson building. We made that decision last summer, because we just said when we get 400 boys plus during the summer, we just can't manage them in the one building. And so that is, we need to do it because we already have the boys that are coming. We've seen a growth in our high school kids and our middle school kids, which I think is great. I see an opportunity to expand on that. We've got some great staff who work with that age group. And so yes, it's going to respond to both our need now and our long-term need. We've got some room for some growth with serving youth if we do renovate the Erickson building and add the outdoor sport court.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for the presentation and the tour. It was great. There are a lot of really good things happening at the Club for Boys. I have a couple of questions with regards to your foundation. So you had submitted a letter that said that they were willing to front a $200,000 non-interest bearing loan. Can you talk to us a little bit about your relationship with the foundation, number one? Number two, the amount of funding that might be available from the foundation for any of the improvements that you need to be doing. And then third, I'll probably have to write these down so that I remember the order I went in. And then third, any current or proposed capital funding that they may be doing on your behalf?
First, our relationship with the foundation is very close. I guess one of the requirements is to have 3 of our operating board members to also serve on the foundation board. And so, I attend the foundation board meetings on a monthly basis. And so, I guess the relationship, is I would consider very close, and there's a lot of sharing of information and commitment. Your third question, I remember, but I don't remember your second question. Sorry about that.
That's why I wrote it down for myself as well. Okay. The second was the amount of funding they may have available for you for these kinds of projects currently.
That, I don't know if I could answer that with clarity at this point. What I can tell you is their assets are a little over $3 million, and that's certainly being invested, and then they return those investments to us as part of our operating funds each year. So that's kind of the arrangement at this point. So
just for clarification purposes,
if I may,
thank you.
I have a
Phone
foundation director here
Phone a
that
friend.
is really eager to answer part of that question.
I could see she was getting antsy.
Tag team.
The money that has been donated to the foundation is basically for an endowment fund to make sure that the club continues for years. It's not so much for what's happening in 2018, 2019, and so on. So I don't know if that helps, but we're not there as a capital fund for the club. In other words, it's an endowment.
So the purpose of the foundation isn't development work for capital improvements and those kinds of things?
No, we're restricted to an endowment.
Okay, thank you.
And the answer to the third question is they have no commitments to capital funds for us.
Chair recognizes Don.
Thanks. I'm really interested in your statement about trying to increase the number of high school age boys that attend your program. And as you know, you couldn't kick my son out of there if you tried. But what ideas do you have? What will help in the new space? What ideas do you have to try and get those older boys to come and stay?
Well, I think it's we have a huge advantage that I don't think we're fully developing, and that is we have our relationship to begin with. Those boys are starting with us at 6 years old, 7, 8, 9, and so that relationship is very strong. But what we've also, from the surveys from our boys, that even though they went over to the Erickson building, we moved them from one location to this new location that is essentially kind of an open warehouse. They love it because it's their space, and that, I think, adolescent boys, 12, 13, 14, 15, they all probably can tolerate their younger brother, but there's times it's time to be away from them as well. And that, I think, just providing a different space where they can be adolescents and really makes a difference. And then I think with what we put into the Erickson building, and that is certainly we're going to have some of that kind of routine stuff where there's some games and stuff like that, but we also the outdoor education, I think, is just a big part. It always amazes me how many 15-year-old boys really have never spent any time up in the hills, or they don't understand the different types of outdoor activities you can participate in. And so we really want to make that, both the outdoor activity and then the activities for the older boys, really target them specifically for those types of activities. And as I mentioned, the teaching kitchen, I think that that's a really specific life skill that we need to introduce, actually, in some cases with these boys, and then actually develop the skill itself. And so those are all things. And then the last thing, like I had mentioned earlier, we have a tremendous opportunity. We've got a great staff that are in place, and they really click with those older boys, and that makes a difference. So,
Thank you.
Okay, I've just got a few questions here. The kind of the phase one, the roofing, that's actively leaking right now, and it's apparently at risk of failure. Would that be a fair statement?
that is a fair statement, and confirmed by All-American Roofing, who has presented a letter to that effect. And and they've been up on the roof several times.
And they gave you the estimate that you've provided to us as supplemental information, correct?
That is correct.
Then you have Security First Bank. They're making a $100,000 line of credit available for you to move on with this project?
That is correct.
And then the $200,000 interest-free, how's that work?
Well, it's been already approved by the foundation board, and the process would be for me to make that request specifically to the foundation director, and that amount would be cut and provided to the club, and we would utilize it.
All right, well, those were the questions I had. Any other questions from anyone? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We enjoyed listening to your presentation. It was very, very thorough.
Thank you. And I thank Richie for saving me, so.
We stand adjourned until